Hello to all you fellow purveyors of subculture out there. This is the Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd. I just had a great workout, and now I'm ready to talk about some games. I subscribe to a few other gaming channels on YouTube, naturally. That's what I come to YouTube for a lot of the time. And one of them is MetalJesusRocks. I like his videos, I love those guys. They're just so down to earth and relaxed when they talk. It just seems like it would be fun to be in a room, sitting down and talking with them about video games. And also they try to introduce a lot of obscure stuff and get really kind of under and deep. And I really appreciate that. And I do something kind of similar in my videos sometimes. So I recently watched a video on his channel called Game Boy Advance Hidden Gems, or something like that, where he and Reggie introduced some really good Game Boy Advance games that people might not be aware of. And I agreed with a lot of the titles they introduced. Things like Blender Brothers and Lady Sia, super solid platformers, and they weren't part of a major series that get a lot of coverage. Apparently this video was pretty popular because they actually ended up doing 2 follow-ups, so they made 3 videos introducing lesser known games on the Game Boy Advance. I'm guessing they were trying to get some more content out of the momentum from the success of the first video. That's natural and all, although I think they might have had to start scraping for titles in the second set. I mean, most people who play action puzzler games probably know Mr. Driller. Anyways, watching the video I thought to myself, what would I add? And naturally, since I'm that gaming guy in Japan, the first thing that comes to mind is great Game Boy Advance games that were never released outside of Japan, that not a lot of people know about. And so I'm going to make this an unofficial response video to the MetalJesusRocks series of Game Boy Advance Hidden Gems and add a few Japan exclusive releases. So today we're going to look at only three Game Boy Advance games that are hidden gems and are Japan only. So, what's up first? Number 1, it's Dancing Sword. Gotta be number 1. This is an amazing game. So I bought this probably almost 10 years ago when I was in Tokyo. The first time I ever saw it, I knew nothing about it, and it was well over $100 used. So this is back when, YouTube existed, but there wasn't tons of game information like there is now. So a lot of times I had to just kind of go by box art or the description on the back of the box. I couldn't, figure out exactly what it was about, but I knew it was some kind of 2D action game that involved rhythm. So I think on a later trip to Tokyo, I saw it again, and it was a lot less than it was the first time. It was maybe 90 or 100. So I just bit the bullet and I bought it, and I haven't regretted it. This game is a scrolling beat 'em up, a genre that I don't actually like all that much. But there's a twist to this one. You can choose from one of 5 characters, all girls, and each character has 3 combos, one based on fire, ice, or lightning. But you'll have to go into training mode and practice for a good 5 minutes or so with the character you want to use before you start playing. This is because the combos are all button sequences that have to be executed in a specific rhythm with the background music. For example, you might have a combo that goes B, B, A, B, B, B. But the thing is, you have to press it in exactly that rhythm, as if you were looking at sheet music. And the judgment for the timing of the combos is really, really harsh. If you miss it just a tiny little bit, the combo's gonna stop, and you won't deliver as much damage as possible because the last hit is really where all the damage comes in, and you leave yourself open to attack also. Now you can start the combo at any time. It doesn't have to be on the first beat of a measure, but it's going to be much easier to execute if you have the rhythm of the music to help you. So it ends up feeling like you're playing an instrument as you kick the bad guys' asses, and it's just an amazing feeling. The execution of the game overall is not as extraordinary as the idea behind the mechanics. There are only 5 levels. Bosses are recycled, and the few bosses there are weren't deeply thought out. The storylines are just totally slapped on top of the game. They don't really make any sense. But the idea for the gameplay is one of the most unique and brilliant things I've ever seen. It was made by a company called MTO, who had mostly made games for little girls, like fashion accessory simulators and that kind of thing. Well, they left us with one masterpiece. Moving on, I left a comment on one of those videos where they introduced Pinobi and said, yeah, Pinobi's a really cool game, but the sequel is so much better. And at the time, I honestly didn't realize that the sequel was never released outside of Japan, which is a real crime, because the sequel, Pinobi and Phoebe, is way better. It's a masterpiece. The first Pinobi is definitely fun to play, but I could never shake the feeling that it was incomplete somehow. Like, you're supposed to find these heart items and kill the golden enemy in every level, but you never get any sort of reward for any of it. It was like they had some kind of story or message to convey, but there just wasn't enough time to fit it all in. Anyways, the second game is leaps and bounds better than the first. The mechanic of being able to dash through the air after jumping is the same, but now in each level you have to find a heart piece in order to have properly completed the level, and these require some exploration and puzzle solving in order to find. To be honest, it's damn hard, and there's a lot of gameplay to each and every set. This isn't just a good game by the Game Boy Advance's standards, this is a great platformer, and the music is beautiful. I was actually going to go tell you guys, go to eBay and get this game as quickly as you can, but after thinking about it a little more, you're probably not going to be able to get through it without reading Japanese. Sorry about that. The last game I want to mention is Metal Gunslinger. It's a real mystery that this wasn't released outside of Japan. It's a kind of Western-themed action platformer in which you gain more guns and special moves as you progress through the game. It's set up in such a way that just getting through it isn't very difficult, but in order to get the best grade possible on a level, you have to beat it not only quickly, but also by using your special attacks as much as possible to get combos and rack up points. And this is all very difficult. The levels are surprisingly long, and it clearly had a lot of thought put into it. By the looks of everything, American gamers would have eaten it up. Maybe it's because it was made by a company that no one ever heard of, Mediato. I managed to get a copy that still had the mini figurine of the main character intact. Lucky! So for everyone who enjoys Game Boy Advance and retro games, these were 3 hidden gems on the Game Boy Advance that never left Japan. Thanks a lot to the MetalJesusRocks channel for doing these videos, bringing up the topic, and trying to introduce great games to us. That's all from me, thanks guys, I'll see you all next time. Keep it healthy. Play action platformers, action puzzlers, probably already know about Mr. Driller and that kind of stuff. Hey, is that a tail?